Hello, 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 and welcome back, you all. This is Charisma with Charisma Cares Travels the World. If you are new to the channel, here I talk about my travel journey in the world with my son with special needs and how I make this all possible by investing in real estate and teaching other women to do the same. So today I have Terry Banks here, and she is with Bank on It Financial Coaching. And she is going to talk to us about all things money, how we can make that money work for us, her journey with the starting point to get into that dream life that she wants. And Terry, what I want you to do is tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you do.
Thank you, first of all, Charisma, for having me.
You're welcome.
This is actually my first podcast with video on. I've done a couple others, but they were both just audio. So this introvert is doing big things. Right?
Yes, big things around here.
um, so I am a financial coach, and my focus with my clients is on building a foundation. So work on mindset, budgeting, savings, and debt reduction. And the reason that I focus on that is because I enjoy it so much. Those ahas that someone who's just learning how to not get screwed over by the financial services industry is just food for my soul, because I know what it did for me, understanding how to, get through and stay out of the way. And then, once my debt was paid off, I was able to kind of turn the tables and use those same strategies to have compound interest be my friend instead of my enemy. So when I'm able to help clients with that, any of that process, building those skills and that confidence, just feeds my soul.
Okay, so you threw out a lot of terms that some of us are like, "Ooh, I don't know anything about that." Like that's like, "Ooh, a little scary." So for those, we're always a little iffy when it comes to our money. It's like, I don't know if I want to invest in this. I don't know if I want to do this. Maybe I should just leave it in the bank, leave it in the savings account. It'll be okay there. Let me not do much more than just, my 401k and my savings account. Why should we have a financial coach? What is it that you can help us do that our basic savings account and 401k is not doing for us?
Right. So one of the reasons that people want to just stick with the 401k and the savings is because they are comfortable with that.
Right.
And as a financial coach, I'm not licensed in working with investments. However, I am an investor and I understand the power of it, but I also know that just jumping right into investing without having that foundation can cause more problems than someone thinks. So that's why I really focus on what it takes to make sure that you're not building a house of cards. Before people even understand just the basics, jump all the way to, say, crypto.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that crypto doesn't have a place, but someone who may be taking money away from their shelter or their food or their transportation for something that doesn't have a use case in daily life for the populace is really taking a big risk. So in working with those basics and really understanding how savings can work, what is compound interest, what power time can have, and just being incremental. And when you get to a point where you have that confidence and you have that emergency fund, you're like, okay, I have the savings for these other things set up too. Now I can go and take calculated risks instead of basically creating a mini Vegas, thinking, oh yeah, this is gonna, I'm gonna, I'm going to the moon with this,
Yeah.
with this. I'm not trying to pick on crypto, but it's definitely happens to be a good example in this.
So, as a person that has done that, so basically, I had a point where I said, well, I'm going to be a day trader. Everybody's day trading. I can day trade too, right? And I day traded and I suck at day trading. I learned that I'm horrible at day trading because I lost money in day trading. I put the money in there and it was like, my attention span is bad. It was like, oh, I'm watching. Oh, a penny, and then I turn my head and I'm no longer paying attention, right? So luckily, the money that I put in there was like a little bit more like play money. So it wasn't
Yes.
like I took my real money and put it in there, but still play money is real money that I no longer can play with, right? So I tell people, at this point in my life, I know what I can do and what I can't do. Like, it's important to know where you stand, what you're good at and what you're not good at. For me, my thing, I'm good at real estate. I am not good at the investing. I'm not good at the crypto, because if somebody's like, hey, you should invest in these 5, I just go invest in those 5. Like, I think there's actually one that's called To the Moon or something like that. Like, it's crazy. And, now everybody's crypto is dropping and it's like, oh crap, now what? Especially those people that put a large sum of money in it. Like, I started selling mine off when it first started dropping. But it's funny because we'll take that money out our savings and put it into crypto, right? We'll take it out, we'll leave it in the 401k and let it drop and not really actually do anything to it. But when it comes to like getting someone like you to say, hey, this is what you should be doing with your money before you make it over to the crypto or the day trading, we're nervous about that. It's kind of like, a financial coach, that sounds scary. So if I said, okay, let me talk to Terry, let me talk to a financial coach. If I'm that person that's like, but I only make like $30,000 a year, why would I do that? Or even if on the flip side, I'm that person that's like, well, I make 125, but I think I'm good. Explain those scenarios. Where would a financial coach fit in? And how would it look like if I'm working with you? Like, what does that look like?
Okay, so I just want to say, for however much money someone is making, a penny is a seed. And it's really about mindset. When someone says, well, I don't have enough money to budget, you absolutely do. You absolutely do. Because you have a budget. It's there. Whether or not you are directing it to go where you want it to go, or it's happening and then you look back to see what happened, or don't look, it still happened. It's just, a budget is just kind of a mirror of what your actions are. And you just have the opportunity to say what your priorities are, and then check to see if that's how you conducted your life. So really being proactive and being intentional. And that happens at every income. I actually, let me try to think. I believe when I first started to pay off my credit card debt, I was making in the mid-30s. So it is absolutely possible. It's so wild that you pick that number out of all the salaries you could pick. I was in the mid-30s at that point. And the more that I understood the power of consistency, I was like, well, let's see what this thing can do. And it can do a lot. It absolutely can do a lot. So what it would look like working with me, I have a 3-month program, and the goal of our time together is to really find out what that person's why is, have them find out for themselves, so that when they are grounded in how they want to be, how they want to, it's kind of a do, be, and have, but it can go deeper than that, because it's not just about, oh, I want money to go buy this, or I don't want to be in debt anymore. It's really that soul why, SOUL, and also SOLE. But SOUL, yeah, I spelled it right.
Yeah.
That soul why. Because then once you're grounded in that, when someone says, oh, these 5 cryptos, or hey, let's look at this day trading, you get to filter it, any of these distractions, anything, that purse, those shoes, whatever, through what you already know is true for yourself. And it makes it a lot easier to say, no, thank you,
Yeah.
to whatever that is, and stick to your plan. And the budget it starts really with that why. And from there, I mean, it's money, so we have to look at the numbers. So we're looking at the numbers and checking to see if there's anything that you're spending money on that's not necessary, you don't use. Definitely want to cut any waste. I'm not saying cut everything out, but until you make that initial assessment, you'd be surprised how many subscriptions, how many streamings, like which, just really getting things organized. So you can see just at a glance what it is you're working with and whether or not it really aligns with your goals. So some people's goals is debt reduction, but that's part of a bigger goal. It's not just, oh, I don't want to have any debt, but why don't you want to have debt? And really getting into that. So by the end of the 3 months, my clients have a plan and even a timeline of when they'll be able to achieve what this goal is. And it could be multiple goals. And they know how to manipulate the tool to, when life keeps going and they have something different they want to accomplish, the tool can do that too. So process, systems, tools, accountability, the guide, the tour guide, basically.
Yeah.
That's what I provide.
So I know like my clients, because I help women that want to invest in real estate.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's like, I want to invest in real estate because, like, typically when someone wants to invest in real estate, they want to make passive income because they want to do something bigger. So it may be, because I want to live abroad, or because I want to be an entrepreneur, or, there's a bigger reason why they want that. They want generational wealth. And, so tell me, when you're looking at that, why? Well, actually, let me go back. So what happens is that they say, well, some of them are like, well, I've been saving up money, so I have a deposit and then we can move forward. But then I have a lot that's like, well, my problem is the financials, and I tell people, like, I'm not a financial coach, but, the one thing I do say is pull your credit report, find out
Oh,
what's on your credit report, you know,
you have to know what
start.
that report card is saying.
Right. You need to start making sure your credit is together, pay off this debt. For me, I didn't have a financial coach. I did what is it called, with the debt snowball, and the who's
The
that?
avalanche.
Who did that? Dave
Oh, yeah, Dave
Ramsey.
Ramsey.
So I
Yes.
did financial freedom, and I paid off my credit card debt, and then I did the debt snowball, and I really stopped. I didn't go any further, but that was really enough to get me to a good place. But a lot of people kind of want to skip like you said, that what he called the baby step, making that savings and
Yes.
paying off that debt and closing some of these accounts that you really don't need, and being able to find that money that's out there. And I know for you, you're in this beautiful area because we can see from your background that's not a filter.
No, that's no
And
filter. That's real.
right. So you've done some things in your life, because a lot of times people like they want to sell you stuff and it's like, but you didn't do any of that yourself. But you've done things in your life to position yourself from when you said you had the $30,000 salary to now living and thriving in Mexico.
Mhm.
So how did you get from point A to basically point E? And how do you help us get there? How can we also do that for those that's like, wait, I'm doing 30,000. I can't imagine just
Mhm.
living my life in Mexico.
So I want to say two things. One, when you mentioned closing the credit cards, I don't necessarily think that that is the right.
I didn't mean closing them, paying
Yeah.
them off.
Yes.
Not
Okay.
closing them, sorry.
Okay. But I want to take the chance to just explain why that's not a good idea. Imagine if one of those cards that you have some history on, but you're not using anymore, but it was your first card that you ever had. And then the next card you got is 10 years later. You're like, well, I don't use this card anymore, I'm gonna close it. You just lost 10 years of credit history. And that could really impact your credit score. So closing is not necessarily the right thing to do. Every situation is different, but just to close it, that's not recommended at all.
Yeah.
So the steps that I took, really my initial why was I didn't want to pay the credit cards anymore. But there was some emotion behind it for me. I didn't even understand how much money it was taking away from me. I just didn't like owing. I wanted, this was before I understood what financial freedom was, but that would have given me a sense of some kind of freedom, that debt freedom. And while I was doing that, I was spending time all my free time at the library, reading about public, personal finance books, and these concepts that just really had nowhere to land. Hadn't heard of them at all, but I just kept going, getting familiar. So while I was paying off my debt very aggressively, mind you, not really something I would recommend to my clients. A $10 emergency fund is not an emergency fund. Okay. Now, granted, this was 20 years ago, so $10 was different then. And mid 30 or high 30s of salary was different then, because a dollar was different at that time. But the concept is still valid. So as I was paying down my debt and making sure not to put accrue more debt on those cards I was paying off, I was just reading and reading. It was several concepts. I was like, oh, wait, if I can go this hard to pay off debt, watch what I do for myself when I'm done with it. So these things that I was learning, I was like, okay, well, what if you did that? And what if you did that? Now, I didn't implement all of it, but just knowing what was possible, what was out there. Because I grew up poor. I grew up basically in the projects, from Pittsburgh, PA. And when I was in second grade, we moved to an apartment complex. A few years later, the mills closed. Instant projects. I mean, when there's no money nowhere, yeah. So I know what it's like to be poor.
Yeah.
And I know that I've been there, done that, wanted a different experience. So what can I do to have a different experience? And starting out very naive, I didn't know anything about anything. Nothing about nothing. I stumbled and bumbled my way through it. So the nice thing for my clients is because I didn't have just that direct, easy route and I had to stumble and fumble, they get the advantage of some of my sidetracks. Oh, whoop, come back and, okay, let's try this one, try this one. So like some of the things that I actually did implement that, we talked about the journey from where it started and to what's now is credit cards were paid off, wanted to save a down payment for a house. We were so naive, we didn't even know we were priced out.
Okay.
We lived in Oakland. We didn't know we were priced out. We were just like, well, we just save some money now, right? We just start saving our money. And then we started then learning more about buying a house. And we looked like, oh, that's what a down payment means? Oh, we don't have that. We don't have that. Like, okay. So we're now priced out of buying a home to live in here. And we had friends of friends. One set of friends had some friends and another set of friends had some friends that happened to be buying some land in Costa Rica. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Can't afford this, but we can kind of hedge retirement because land just keeps increasing, prices keep increasing. So if we do that, then we kind of, press the pause button on that becoming unaffordable. So we went down and checked it out. We liked it. It was great. Okay. So actually our first purchase was international land.
So let's pause here. So what you did, you all said that, well, we want to get a house. We saved up some money. You got ready to get a house and realized, okay, our down payment just isn't enough.
And it wouldn't be in Northern California at that point, would not have been in Oakland at that point.
But you didn't give up and say, okay, whatever,
Going to the mall. No.
It is what it is. What you did was you basically was like, okay, somebody said there's some land in Costa Rica. Ding, ding, ding. Maybe this kid, who knows what can happen? Like, because back then, we weren't really traveling like we are now, right? It wasn't widespread. And if you were, you didn't really know about it. You didn't know so many women and so many individuals were out here traveling. So y'all just kind of went on a whim and a dream and said, let's try this. Land doesn't go down in value, so let's just go buy some land.
Listen, I remember this grown folks talk when I was a kid, and half paying attention, not paying attention. And there was some mention of, it was an elderly neighbor and some cat food. I didn't understand what they were talking about. Years later, I was like, things just pop back in and you have some life experience. You're like, oh my gosh, I think they were talking about the old lady had to eat cat food because she couldn't afford food. And I was like, so all these different things, 30 did a number on me. I'm like, I've got to get it together. So I, start thinking about, okay, there's a 30-year mortgage. Okay, so I'm 30 now, I'll be 60. At that point, 60 was old. And I was like, I can't even buy that house yet. So who knows how long the 30 years starts on the mortgage. I'm like, I gotta start, I don't know, acting like an adult here, figure my life out. So I really started thinking about the later years. And I was like, okay, so now while things are working, we just have to keep renting. But when I'm old, I don't want no smoke, right? I don't want that kind of life. So started kind of planning backwards. So that was in 2007 when we got that land in Costa Rica. And then in 2008, the Great Recession, boom, all of a sudden housing was affordable. I was like, what? But we didn't go back to, once we got that, we didn't change our lifestyle. We had gotten really accustomed to really appreciating and being in gratitude for what we did have. So we weren't distracted by, any of the consumeristic things. And that really saved us. It really, really saved us. So, on the news, everyone's talking about, oh, people are losing their homes, losing their home. I only seen them talking about single family homes.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything about people losing triplex or fourplex. I was like, get me one of them. So that's what we did. Our very first purchase was 4 units. And it was actually, it was an REO, so it was bank owned. And it was a fixer upper. Every single unit needed something. Every single. So we were living for a while, we were living in 2 of them because one had electricity and the other had plumbing. While it all got figured out. And there's a blessing. Let's say fools and babies. Listen, we might have been both. After the place was done getting renovated, by the way, it was with a 203K FHA loan. By the time it got done, we read somewhere that that a renovation is supposed to be one of those things that's really hard in a relationship. Well, we didn't know that. So we were just camping with the roof and making things happen and laughing at like it was an adventure. And so that's the energy that we went into it with. Now, do I want to do that way again? No, but I'm doing some other stuff.
Right.
So after that, really started understanding how compound interest works and an amortization schedule, and how the less interest you pay, the more money you keep. So just using a lot of the strategies that I thought, well, I'm gonna do right by me. Yeah. So that was the first residential, well, with a roof.
Right.
Well,
So the land in Costa Rica, were you earning any money on that, or you were just
no,
holding it?
just holding, still holding
Okay.
it. Yeah.
And
Our
then
plans changed.
that's okay. And
They're
then you
different topics.
basically bought the quad, the fourplex, and you house hacked. So you did the Burr method.
Yes.
So you bought it, while you were living in it, you renovated it, you then rented it out or refinanced it.
Yeah, rented it. And the way that we refinanced, though, we didn't take money out when we refinanced.
Okay.
We refinanced to get rid of PMI
Okay.
because all we had was that 3.5%.
So yeah, so you had a low interest rate. So you refinanced it for just what was due on the loan.
Yeah, we wanted to keep, we were really comfortable with what our PITI was at that point. And so because of the equity, the force equity that we created, and when we refinanced out of that 30-year fixed, we were able to take advantage of a loan program that got it pretty close to that same dollar amount. And it ended up turning into a 13-year loan. So from 30 to 30 within 4 years.
Wow. So to understand, the force equity is basically taking that property that was probably pretty cheap because it was a fixer upper, basically going in there, remodeling, fixing it up. And now this property that, let's give it a number, say it was 50,000, is now worth 300,000 because you went in, you fixed it up, you made it livable, you put in these upgrades, and now you had 4 units, and you probably, I'm assuming at that point, could live in one and rent out the other 3.
Yes, but by the end of it, it was fully rented. Yes.
So that's where your forced equity came in, and that's that house hacking or that Burr method.
Yes.
So you said when you refinance, you didn't take the money out. A lot of times people take that money out and they basically rinse and repeat. So they go and they buy the next property with that money. So where did you go from remodeling, refinancing? What was that next step?
So the next step was, like I said, we didn't change our lifestyle. So whenever we got a raise or a bonus or any money that came in, we would give ourselves a little bonus because we earned it. That from there, it just went towards reducing the debt on the house or the down payment for our next place. And that was our single family home. We felt more confident in ourselves and the market at that
Right.
point for a single family home. But because we already knew the advantages that multiple units had, the place that we got, because of the way it was configured, we actually could have rented out part of it. We could have made some quick changes, some different doors, some this, and created some privacy, and it would have been a shared kitchen, but living spaces. But luckily we didn't have to do that. But it was an insurance policy for sure. And we actually sold the fourplex early 2020 and sold our single family home late summer last year.
Okay. Okay. You mind sharing how much you paid for the fourplex?
At that point, it was around 250, but it needed about 100,000 of work. And so
Okay.
that was with that FHA loan, with
Okay.
the 203K, which is the renovation loan. And the nice thing about that is whatever interest rate that you qualify for the purchase, you get to use that same interest rate for the renovation. So oftentimes, if you get a construction loan, I'm going to throw a number out there, but I've never done what is it, 18%? It could be 18%. Is that?
Yeah, especially if you do hard money,
Oh
it
yeah,
may
hard
be
money is,
15, 16, 17, depending on your credit into the early 20s, the low 20s.
yeah. So we were able to avoid that, which is why we wanted to refinance out of PMI as soon as possible, because we didn't have that down payment that was gonna save that. So that's the other thing we did. When we refinanced out of the PMI, we knew that we had it in our budget because it was going somewhere before, that we put toward the paying down the mortgage.
And for those that may not know what PMI is, that's the private mortgage insurance. So when all of this hashed out and people started losing all of their houses and the bank had to pay all this money, they added this 20% that you had this, was it 20%? 20% mortgage insurance that you had to pay on your mortgage. So just in case you defaulted on your loan, no, hold on, let me say that differently. If you put down less than 20% deposit on your mortgage, you had to have private mortgage insurance, so that if you defaulted on your loan, that mortgage insurance would come in and pay your loan. Once you pay off 20% of your mortgage, then you can refinance out, take off the private mortgage insurance, and you don't have that extra cost. So what Terry is saying is that once they got under that 20%, once they were at a 80% that they had left on that mortgage, they refinance, and let's say that mortgage insurance was $150 a month, they then still put that $150 a month aside instead of paying it to the bank, because otherwise you're just paying it to the bank. You never see that money again. I did the same thing. Once I got under 80%, I refinanced because I wanted to take off that 20%. Now I didn't do like Terry did and put that and put that money aside. Terry, I don't know where that money went, to be quite honest with you, but it did not go to the bank.
And using that same money that we were already used to, that's basically the story of our wealth building, is use that same money or new money. And it's just a check-in. Did you have shelter? Yes. Did you have food? Yes. Did you have reliable transportation? Yes. Well, whew, there was a time didn't even know that was going to happen. So yes,
Right.
very grateful.
Right.
So keep on keeping on. It was those decisions that kept us strong, and it didn't help that streaming services came out, because that was a cheap way to be entertained, you know, along with reading.
Yes, I did that too. And when I
So,
think about it, that when that mortgage insurance dropped off, I still paid my mortgage. I still paid every month like it was still on there. That
yes,
money just
that's what we did.
went
Yes,
towards that mortgage. That's what it was.
yes. And the
And
mortgage that you did, you prevented the bank from basically accruing more interest against you.
right,
So
right.
it was a defensive game that ended up being one of the best offensive plays ever.
Right. And it was something, and I did the same. I went from from an RN to a nurse practitioner, started making more money, but I didn't pick up any new bills. I bought another house. You know, I rented out the first house, and I started to accrue wealth in the background and just didn't touch that money.
Yes.
And it's those simple steps, you know, it's that long-term game. You know, these aren't quick get rich schemes. They're slow, simple steps that you're teaching people that will pretty much guarantee wealth building
Yes.
and guarantee you get to that next step.
You know what kept me, one of the things that kept me honest is, I think I was in my late 30s when we bought this place. And there are things that we did not know how to do and shouldn't have been doing. That's what the contractors were for. But whatever we could do, we did, including painting. And that was a lot of ceilings. That's a lot of this. And I'm like, man, my shoulder. I'm like, oh, okay. You are not in your teens anymore. Every ache and pain reminded me, you're getting older. You're not old yet, but it is happening. Stay focused, stay focused. No cat food, right? So it's real. So we had a friend, we met a friend in Oakland. He grew up actually in Guadalajara. He moved back to Mexico, but to Puerto Vallarta. We missed our buddy. We came to visit, like that just derailed our Costa Rica plans. We fell in love with Puerto Vallarta. And we were like, okay, so what are we gonna do now? We ended up buying some land with him. And it's not developed yet, but that's kind of a future thing. But then we got some other land on our own that we're going to build. And several things went into the decision that we made of what we're going to build. One, I didn't want a condo. Even in the States, I never wanted a condo. I don't like HOA fees. I'm grown.
Right.
I don't want you telling me about some basic things that I cannot do.
Right.
I don't want to be causing a ruckus and disturbing other people's peace, but I'm grown, right? So I've
And
never
I pay this mortgage.
yeah, so I've never been a fan of HOAs. So we didn't want a condo. And this was my chance to, I'm a big kid. And when I think about the things that the kid me wanted to do that didn't get to do for whatever reason, but in this case, math. I had a math teacher just did me a complete disservice. And so basically in high school, I'm thinking I can't even count, right?
Oh, wow.
I'm exaggerating, but
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
left that mark. So I've always been fascinated by buildings and architecture. So it's time to pick a major, and I'm like, oh, architecture. And then I'm like, oh, what do you need for that? Math. I'm like, oh, can't do that. I just instantly, just like that,
Yeah.
put it out of the picture. And my friend is he's a brilliant designer and architect, builder. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna build my place. And I love the Golden Girls. And because I'm already kind of, I don't want to say obsessed, but really a big priority is having a very enjoyable and safe elder experience.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, Golden Girls, but I don't just want my own room. Okay, everybody can go home, but we could be in the same building. So we have designed a 9-unit building. It's age in place, so no tripping hazards, elevator, rooftop pool, a view of the bay, mountains, just beautiful. And that's basically, it's filling so many parts of me. I want to have fun. It reminds me of a dorm with no homework, but we're not, college kids.
Right.
So it's a little bit of that. I love sunsets. Party at home.
So
Just community and just having fun. And I get to design a building and watch it come to life. It's like
wow.
birth without the pain.
Wow.
Right?
So basically you went from, I just want to pay off some credit cards. I just want to pay off some credit cards to a fourplex, to a single family, selling that, buying some land in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And basically what you're doing is what we call the senior living residences. That's what it sounds like in the States.
And people they don't have to be seniors.
Okay.
But I know that I don't want to move when I'm old. I mean, not to be morbid, but
right.
I don't want to kick it at the crib.
Right. Right. And all of this was just made possible by you just doing these steps, like these steps that you kind of create, things that you kind of read about and created and put into action a little bit at a time. And, for me, I'm in my late 30s, and some things I'm like, I wish I would have done more of this. I wish I would have invested in this. If I had bought Apple, if I had bought that building, if I had bought that house, but it's kind of like, yeah, I do have things here. And I'm always like, well, I feel like I kind of started late, but it's the fact of the matter is you can start in your 30s, you can start in your 40s, you can start wherever, and you can go from there. You just got to kind of follow that framework. Yeah. And it sounds like that's one of the things that, you've done and that you help with is this framework of, doing this, then doing this and taking these steps. And I like that it wasn't like I tell people, it doesn't really matter how many doors you have. At the end of the day, it matters how much money you make. I have a rental. I make over $1,000 a month on one rental. Like, I know people, it takes them 3 or 4 houses to make that. Like, and it's like, it's a whole lot easier for me to manage that one tenant for that amount of money than 4 tenants. So it's not about the number of doors. You literally had 4 doors in one building. You had a single family home and you made that work. And now you're creating this 9-plex basically on this land that you bought, and you're creating your dream. And what other people may not even know is their dream, they can now come and would they rent from you?
So the plan is to have neighbors.
Okay. And they would rent
we want to buy.
Okay.
That way, yeah, I don't want to be a landlord. I just want to get my tequila and just relax.
So basically they can come, and now you have just made this to the place where you've taken that money, that bucket of money, you've brought it over here, and you're creating basically this retirement dreamland?
Listen, the down payment that it took for the fourplex, everything that's happened then is recycling that. That first down payment has made all of this possible. And not allowing lifestyle creep. So that combination of just not, so it's like not killing the golden goose, but taking it one step further and not even eating those eggs. Wait till those eggs turn into geese, and then maybe eat the grand eggs.
Right, right.
So it's just turning that same money over again.
So one thing that I tell my students is people will sign up for a coaching program. We'll pay our money. I've done it myself. I paid my money for a coaching program. They laid out all the steps for me. Everything was there. And then when it was done, I picked it up once or twice and I never did anything with it. It wasn't until I was ready to do something that I actually did something. So I know you mentioned the mindset coaching, because a lot of this is mindset. I can teach you real estate investing all day long, but you may not do, if you don't do anything with it, then it's just in the book.
Strategies out here. What you bring to it isn't here. And that is the part that is really important. Like, I like to think of saving as practice and investing as the game. How many pro athletes or any athletes just go in the game without practicing?
Right.
And so if we're looking at this as something that's important enough for us to sacrifice some risk, put the work in. You're worth it.
I know I'm worth it. I am. And I'm sure everybody on here is worth it too. So, I like that. Like, you're like, it's like a regular person. We are just regular people that were brought up. Like, I live in Atlanta. I grew up in College Park with Ludacris, all of them, these are, we all lived in, even if you lived in the house, you were kind of in the project area. Like, we were not rich people. It was Outkast, it was Ludacris. Everything they talk about is where we came from. Those are the schools I went to. So we were not rich individuals. So a lot of us, we are first generation in the making.
Yes.
These are these things we want to leave or pass down and teach others. So these aren't like, oh, I was born with this silver spoon, now let me help you.
Let me tell you about my rusty spoon. No, no, I'm playing.
Right, but we did something with our rusty spoon, right?
Yes, and that's the point. It's. I mean, of course, there have been times I'm like, oh, it'd just be nice if I was just rich. But the things that I've done that can't be taken away from me, the things that I've created, the experiences that I've had, just, oh, this light switch, okay, we got to pick up, let's take the mattress, move it over to the other unit, and then, oh, we got to go back over here to do laundry, though. Listen, when you're in the first home that you buy and your nightstands are beer cases, because they are the good height for the mattress to be on the floor, then you're doing something. But they were matching, though. They were matching. Right? That's all that was important. You got that feng shui. Just
they were matching. The good thing is that they were matching, right? That you had nightstand.
You had nightstands, right?
Like when you come from like, I really did this. Sometimes it's hard. Like I did a video the other day. It was a quick live and I was like, give yourself flowers, because sometimes we don't even think about what we've accomplished. We don't think about where we've come from to where we are now. I was just listening to an interview before we talked with Tabitha Jones. I think that's her last name. And she was saying, like, she never even dreamt of where she is today. Like she couldn't even, like, it's like, they were asking her, well, how, what do you want next, or how do you stop yourself from limiting your dreams? And she was like, I never dreamed of this. Like, once I started to be myself and follow certain things, it just came about. And it sounds like it was like, once you start to put one foot in front of the other and you said, I need ABC, I need to know when I retire, I'm not still paying these bills. I need to know that I'm going to live comfortably. You did not say at 30, I need to have a 9 unit in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Listen, I think I may have only heard of this place on Love Boat. Right? So it's not like I was, a world traveler. It's not.
So you weren't even you weren't even the person just traveling all over.
No, first I didn't have no money. And then by the time I had it, I was like, you can't get my money. My money, I'm buying assets.
Right.
I'm gonna, try to take care of myself so that because I got to a point when I realized, wait a minute, things are happening. Start running the numbers. No, that can't be right. Running what? I can retire by 50. What? I'm like, beyond the palpitations, because the formula can't be right. We got to just redo this whole spreadsheet, because there is no way that this is real.
Right.
But then once it started sinking in, I was like, okay, I'm definitely not doing nothing stupid now.
Right.
Because I understood the time better. I understood how powerful compound interest is and how that time machine can put you back or it can propel you forward. And I was like, I'm going forward. And I started comparing everything to a brick. Like, how many bricks you gonna steal from me? Well, nope, not worth it. You're not worth my bricks. Not worth my bricks. So it got really easy. Once you have that why, man,
yeah,
nothing can touch it.
And I think it's sacrificing a little bit of time. I tell my daughter, if you sacrifice a little time, 5 years from now, as long as you are on this world, as long as you're on this earth, 5 years are going to come. You could be doing the exact same thing you're doing today, or you could be doing something different. But I promise you, as long as you keep breathing, those 5 years will come.
The calendar don't give a damn. It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. But what it looks like is up to you. So you just keep taking those baby steps. I bought, I bought that first house in that 2008 crash. I was looking for a house before that crash, and I could not find anything that I wanted. I qualified for the FHA. I didn't even have a 3% deposit. I had one of those home buyer helper programs. I had enough for closing costs, and that was a lot of money to me. Like, the closing cost was a lot of money. And I remember looking at houses, and I remember going to this neighborhood and saying, I want a house in this neighborhood. And that neighborhood was out of my price range. So I don't know how I was getting a house in that neighborhood. And I just gave up. Gave up.
The hood was out of our price range. We had some after we bought in Costa Rica and we were priced out and we were saving up, we got to a point that we had some, and we were looking, and okay, we can't afford this down payment, but our offer never got accepted. And then all the requirements were changing. They were almost changing daily when the markets were fluctuating. So you qualify one day, the next day you didn't. And it was like, what's going on? And then boom, the bottom fell out. I was like, what is happening? But it ended up being a blessing, but for us, but the only reason is because we were prepared. So that basically taught us, stay prepared, stay prepared. And it really, I'm not saying that we haven't gotten any good fortune on this journey. I'm not saying that at all, but it chaps my hide when someone's like, oh, you're so lucky. I'm like, no.
This was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, and there's been some bubble guts and some, looking at friends' vacation photos and not being a hater and just, okay, you know what? I don't want to go there, but that other place I was like, how can I just switch up these thoughts in my head? And I was like, they're all scouts. I'm going to look through their photos and see if that's someone I'm going to be on my list or not. So I would just say it like, yeah, just it's mindset. And sometimes feel like playing games. Yep.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
So, we did similar things. When that market dropped, I ended up buying bank-owned property as well. It was basically a bank foreclosure in that same neighborhood. I went in and said, I'm going to own a house here, and couldn't afford anything in that neighborhood. Don't even know why I drove in there. So that ended up being my first house. So for those people that are like, I want to save up money, I want to get this first property, or I want to go on this, I want to move abroad, or I want to pay this off. That's like, oh, you all got lucky because the bottom fell out, but the bottom's not falling out now. So what am I supposed to do?
There are real estate cycles. The more you study, the more time you dedicate to, so money is energy. And it's almost like the markets breathe, the economy breathes. So there's those inhales and exhales. And sometimes it's a deep breath, sometimes it's shallow. But if you're prepared, you'll be able to take advantage of it. Now, I didn't know any of this, like I said, start off naive, but with strategy, can even have a better experience than what I had. So we actually have the gift of having so many different economic situations in such a short period that we don't even have to look at the history books. We can actually remember or easily research because it's all documented online.
Right.
That's fairly new.
Right.
Okay, this happened, this other thing happens. It's all pulling levers, like levers, and these different things happen. So now there's tech layoffs, there's real estate layoffs. The interest rates are affecting buildings, and that will, don't know the extent of layoffs in other industries. But when people stop paying money for one thing, there's this domino effect. And as we can see, the housing market has already been affected. There's a correction. We don't know how far it's going to go. But if I was going to be buying in the US, I would definitely be taking a closer look at that budget to see where some things, what I could do to strategize to make sure that I was ready.
And that's what I tell people. Now is the time to get your money together and learn how to invest. Now is that time. There everybody wants to wait, wait, wait. Well, you wait, and then when it's time, you're not ready. You don't have the funds, because long gone are the days where I can qualify for the homeowners program to pay that down payment. That 3%. Some people can still get the 3% FHA for their first home, but for some of us, it's now 10%, because now this is our second or third home investment property. So we need to be saving up funds, but it's hard to save up if you haven't paid off this debt. If you haven't
Oh,
looked to see, do you need Hulu, Netflix? Do you need
need them all.
do you need them all?
There's the library, and many libraries, you can read the books on the device that you already have.
Mm.
So we can get a little creative. You think about, when I think about what my mom went through in the workplace to take care of me, and what my grandma had to put up with for her kids, I can wait until a brand new movie makes it to streaming. I can eat this thing instead of that thing, or just whatever it is, to almost to honor. I mean, it's if we are the wildest dreams of our ancestors, we should act like it too.
Say that one more time. I like that. One more time.
If we are the wildest dreams of our ancestors, we should act like it. We should not be their nightmares. We don't have kids, but it was important for us to create some generational wealth in part of this journey. So we have nieces and nephews, they're gonna come up, but they have to earn it too. In our estate plan is they have to take financial coaching. It'll be paid for by the estate, but if they don't do what they need to do, well, it's just getting divided up amongst the rest.
So do you teach estate? Do you help with estate planning as well?
No, that's just our personal thing that we did.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Right.
but it's part of that big money picture. And depending on where someone is in their financial journey, they should at least have the basics done. With the will and life insurance and all that. There's, with every concept, you can touch upon it or you can deep dive into it. Right. So a will is one of the basics, but a whole estate plan, that's another level of it, but you got to start somewhere.
I mean, my mind is just like this. I'm like, wait, I got this, but I don't have that. And I got this and I don't have that. Because as you start to acquire more wealth and more vehicles of wealth, you kind of have to go up that ladder. You got to do a little bit more. We should not be seeing our, like Chad and all of these individuals that's passing away. What's the guy that just committed suicide? Come to find out, he doesn't have a will either. These people are millionaires and they don't have wills. And then now their family is fighting. And you all have gone a step further, and not only did the will, you did the estate planning and said you need to do financial courses, you need to learn this. And I think that is major. I'm actually taking notes, because I'm gonna go put that on my paperwork too, because I never thought to say, because I always wonder, man, when my kids take this over, how are they gonna manage?
And we are trying to model to the best we can, but they don't live with us. Even if they did, there's still no guarantee. But one of the things for all of us, it's easier for us often to learn from someone brand new you know, you don't necessarily want to hear your mama, you know,
Right. They don't
but
want to
you'll
hear
take it
me.
all in from somebody else. So we want them to succeed. We want them to succeed. You know, if we knew that our lives are going to be longer, our estate plan would probably look different because we'd have more time to you know, to use it and grow it in a different way, and you know, play with it differently. But in taking care of us, we're taking care of them.
Right. Right. And I want all of us to get to the point where we need an estate plan. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing if every person you coached got to the point that their growth magnified, their wealth magnified to the point that an estate plan was definitely necessary? Just because they took these steps and they executed them. You know, they didn't just take it and sit it on the coffee table. They took it, we've done that. We've
Yes,
done that program
yes.
that we paid for it and we said we were going to do it and we
It's
didn't
called
do it.
master's money for a reason.
Right. We took it and we executed those steps. I think that would be amazing. That's why I think that what you're doing is a little different because you're not just doing the financial coaching, you're helping with the mindset part of it. You're helping with the budgeting part of it. You're taking time. You know, it's not like we just have this one call. You're following people for 3 months.
Yeah, for 3 months. And then, you know, people have different goals. And if at the end of that 3 months, and we all have different personalities. Some people are like, thanks, I got it. I'm gonna run with it. This is great. Other people are like, at the end of 3 months, they want to continue. So I also have a program, it's a growth and accountability, and it's really customizable. Depending on someone's goals, they may want to meet quarterly, or they may want to meet monthly, just for a check-in, just for, you know, because some life changes. I just want to confirm, like, this is what I was thinking, but just want somebody who's not really who's not benefiting from their transaction, to give some insight or to help them talk it through, because it's ultimately their decision.
Yeah.
I will point out some things, but they're the hero. I'm just the guide. And also I'm just happy to get to see it happen.
Yeah. It's something about
It's so
seeing
fun.
really seeing people take this and make a difference in their lives, not just, oh, you came to me and da da da, but really taking it. I mean, I wanted to invest in real estate for a very long time before I actually started making the move. And I took a coaching program, and I remember him saying 95% of you all in here won't do anything with the information I gave you. Which 5% of you will? And I raised my hand. And I have taken the bumps, I have taken the bruises. There have been days where I'm like, why did I do this? There have been days where I was like, my cable was cut off before a lot of people cut off cable. I didn't like that. When that
Oh,
Netflix first came out, I was on that Netflix list. I told my kids, we got to cut the budget. There were things going on in my personal life where I had to cut the budget. And we just never went back. We cut it and it stayed that way. That was the way. If she wanted to watch something on cable, she went to her friend's house. I don't know what to tell you. Like, we got to cut it somewhere. And these bills to pay for your band are much more important than this cable bill. Like, it's
really priorities. It's just priorities.
right. But we never went back. That was the thing. We realized we didn't need it. We weren't a TV watching family. So we didn't need all of these different channels. To this day, I got the free Hulu with T-Mobile, one TV, the free Netflix, one TV. When I had Netflix, when they raised their price again, I was like, I don't even watch Netflix. Now my son, he watches YouTube, so we subscribe to that, but we're not subscribing to everything because our money matters. And like you said, every little bit of that money matters. Put it where it's most important.
Seed. It's a seed.
So for the person that's like, okay, I'm ready, I need to do something, I need to get in contact with you, I want to get more information on this coaching program, how do they do that?
So the information is on my website.
Okay. Tell us your website. It is also posted below in the description. Tell us your website.
It is bankonitfc.com.
Okay. Now for the part
for a financial coach.
For the person that's like, I want to do it. I know I need to do it, but I'm not ready to do it. How can they like follow you? Or do you have an email you send out, or Facebook or Instagram?
I have a newsletter. It's weekly, a monthly blog, and also I post on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll post all of that below so you can see how to subscribe to the monthly newsletter. And the newsletter, that's free.
Yes.
Okay. So you can get the newsletter, get that information, the wonderful gems that's being delivered. And, if you're not quite ready, you can start with that, because eventually you're going to realize, ooh, this inflation, I tell you, it is it is nothing to play with. So if you're not quite ready, you may want to get ready.
When we first bought our fourplex, the rents hadn't gone up, astronomically yet in the San Francisco Bay Area. And that fourplex was to be my 401k and my fortress, basically. That was my retirement plan. And because the markets changed the way that they did, I was able to take advantage of that long before the 30 years that I thought.
Right.
But if I had never taken those steps, I would never gotten a chance to do that. And having the mortgage instead of rent actually was a big saving, because we weren't affected by the increase in rents in that period, and also another wave of increase in rents. And then inflation on top of it. Yeah, we still had to pay the same amount for food, but there were other things where we weren't affected.
Yeah, rent is high in Atlanta. High. Even when when I think about the inflation from when I bought my house, and I look at rent, I'm like, I'm glad I own. It's cheaper to own.
Yes.
It was cheaper to own. And that's the vehicle that we use. That's the vehicle that you use. That's the vehicle that I use. But I don't want people to feel like, okay, if I don't want to invest in real estate, you're not able to help, because this is bigger than what your investment is.
Yeah, whatever somebody's goal is, it's their goal.
Right.
Some people don't want to invest in anything, but they do want to feel like they have a handle on their household.
Okay.
And what that does is, especially if someone has kids, you get healthy with money, and then that's what you're passing off to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
They see you paying the bills or spending money, not in a huff, but with grace.
Yeah.
And then when you're able to communicate in a more peaceful manner around money, that helps the relationship, your love interest relationship. It helps modeling for the kids. And maybe you think that you're not able to be the one that builds a generational wealth, but you're able to set your kids up to do that. Because oftentimes we can believe in our kids, but we can't believe in us. So at least, can give them the gift of having that. Because time is definitely on their side. I think time is on all of our sides if we're still here. But sometimes it's easier for someone to like, okay, yeah, I can do it. I can do it for the kid.
Yeah. That house that grandma bought, that now mom owns, that can now be passed on for those that didn't sell grandma's house, it's
Mhm.
worth a pretty penny.
It's worth a pretty penny. Yes.
So, well, Terry, I am so glad you decided to join us and tell us about how to do better in our finances. So I will post all of that information there below, how to get in contact with Terry, how to sign up for coaching, how to get that newsletter that we should all get. And I really enjoyed this. I learned quite a bit.
Thank you. Thank you so
So yeah,
much.
so make sure y'all like and subscribe and share this video. This is definitely one we need to be sharing. So we are building our wealth, we are decreasing our debt, and we are doing amazing things for the next generation.
Absolutely.
All right, ciao.